Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Talks with LaKisha. I am your host, Dr. LaKisha James. You know, the great thing about technology is that you can connect with anyone, anywhere. My guest is Helen from South Africa. We met on a platform a couple of years ago, and she is someone that you guys need to get to know. So I would like to introduce to you Ambassador Mehreen Mia. She is a Global Goodwill Ambassador awarded by the GIA USA, affiliated to the United Nations, holding honorary doctorates in humanities, which is psychology, education, and humanitarianism. Welcome, Ambassador Mehreen. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and, of course, your audience. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Lakeisha.
Thank you. You know, I know we've been trying to do this for I don't know how long now, but listen, by God's grace, we are completely here, and I'm so
Yeah,
excited
it's there. It's there. The
today.
day is there. The time is now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to start off with what is about education that made you become an educator?
If I have to go into that, I think I call myself more an educationist than an educator because I'm not classroom based. I'm not classroom based, but I'm saying it, in a very nice, humble way,
Mhm.
because I'm really not that classroom based somebody. I'm between primary schools, and then high schools and college and university, and of course the teachers too. And between all of them, I try and inculcate this love to be educated, if you know what I'm saying. And
Mhm.
for me, the start of that was actually in school myself. And why I designed going into this field and design my own program, so to speak, is when I was at school, I had the whole lot of issues that happened within school, and the
Mhm.
only people eventually that were there for me were the teachers because the kids were always the bullying type, etc. So I was always this people pleaser, trying to win people over as an only child in school. And then
Yes.
I became if a teacher called me to do something, then I'd be accused of being the teacher's pet. So it was just a roller coaster. And
Mhm.
eventually, when I was in my last year of school, I felt that I'm not interested in anybody else. Let me just read a book during break by myself under a tree. And then the right kind of people found me, and the teachers would still be my friend. And then I found when I was at university level, it still moved there. Like it was never just, it wasn't me, it was people in general. And
I
I
love
felt
it.
that the more I educated me about things and people, not
Mhm.
just education for a subject, I'm talking about life, the
Mm.
more I was able to relate and then go out and teach and talk. And I always loved talking. My first lecture was when I was 13 years old. So education for me has always been like a passion, a drive. Like I want to learn. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm sure there's more to learning than just a textbook. And I mean, textbooks are important, right? But I
Mhm.
just felt like I needed to go more. And that's when I started to delve more. And every time I started to study something, I started to find the impact of what I'm learning on me first. And that's when I said, you know what? This is what needs to get into a classroom, into university. The people need to love to learn. And sometimes we kind of miss the loving to learn part because we got academics to follow, or we got a syllabus to follow, or we got teachers that are inundated with whatever they got to do. So we miss the love to learn part. And that's why I decided I'm going to try and do something in the field of education.
I love it. Educationist. So I stand corrected. She's an educationist, not an educator. So you started speaking at 13?
Yeah, so it was random actually. We used to go to a province here that's called yeah, well now it's one of the nine provinces in South Africa, but back then we used to go every year on holiday, my mom, my dad, myself. And at this place we always had family friends, whatever. And this lady that used to be there that we used to live with, she was a very vocal somebody in her community. And so everywhere she went as I was growing up, I mean seriously, Lakeisha, I would be like her leech. I want to go everywhere that this lady was going because I was little. So I grew up with her and everything she was doing. And so one day she had to go to give this lecture and she said I must go with. And that's when I was like, oh, wait, I'm not going. She said, no, come, you can be with me. And when I got there, it was a lecture she was giving to moms with their daughters.
Hmm.
And I was 11 and a half, 12. And then she said to me, I want you to say something to them. And I said, what am I going to say? She said, I don't know, whatever you want to. And I said, um, it's a big people. I said it's a big people's crowd. That's what I said. I said it's a big people's crowd, and she said, but there's also small people like you in there, so you can speak to them.
Hmm.
So I said, oh, okay, okay. So she spoke, and I was watching her and listening to her, and then I grasped like half the things she was saying because I used to love it when she used to just speak.
Hmm.
And I stood there, and then she said, and now I have a guest that actually stays with me twice a year. She comes to me for a holiday, and she introed me like that, like a little, like one of her daughters. And then she gave me the mic. And I stood there and I greeted everyone and I said, I like what she said. And I started talking so casually about what she was saying, not realizing that I'm actually talking into this mic to this audience. And it was like a free flow of like 3 minutes of just a conversation that I was having with them, not an actual, lecture per
Wow.
se. And after that, when the people said to me, wow, like where did you learn that? And I was like, I don't know. And I didn't realize what happened at the time. Mind you, I only realized the impact of that moment when I was in my third year of university. When you go to your counselors at university to kind of find why
Mhm.
am I moving from this subject to that subject? I can't find my space. So I sat there and I did the assessment and they asked me one question. They said, at what point in your life did you have something happen to you that impacted you? Or you felt so comfortable in what you were doing. And I thought, I don't know. And then a flashback to that moment came to me, and I said, "This is what I actually love doing." And they said to me, "So
Um,
why don't you try to do that? Do whatever you're doing and do what you do and talk to people." And I thought, wow, like who would have thought something I did so randomly without thought, just there, that back then, 11 and a half, 12 years old,
yeah.
would become something I grow into a passion today. Yeah.
That is amazing. And that goes back to show that words are powerful. Our thoughts and what we say, it sets the tone. That's amazing that you were
Yeah,
courageous and bold enough
it's
to do
beautiful
that.
because it's beautiful because some of those girls, little girls who were with me then, my age, actually kept in touch. And I know, I think it was 4 years ago, one of them found me and said to me they wanted me to know that, her mom had passed on and her mom was at that event.
Hmm.
But, after being there and after seeing me, well, I was there like every year and then twice the times I would go and still talk to these people again. But she was so thankful that I grew their bond and, they weren't so segregated from each other anymore. And that's when you realize, sometimes you don't know the impact you have. You could be casually just saying something because it's something that you want to say at the time, but you don't know what impact that may have on the next person. And that's why I say some of us are here for purpose. We really are. We are for purpose. But yeah, and the other thing that I could say for now that I'm thinking about it is it's so important, even for adults, if you notice a skill or something that is good in someone, even if it's your child, who's to say don't push the skill? Academia is important, but if that lady never saw that I could talk, I don't think I would have known I could talk. I would have still been sitting
That
behind a
part,
desk and,
yes.
it's so important to do that.
Absolutely. I love that. Oh, that just made my whole 2026. I love that. At such a young age, you set purpose for your life. Didn't know that you was affirming that would be who you will become and impact hundreds to thousands. Oh, I love that. I love that. So the MIA program, which stands for Motivate, Inspire, and Advance, was designed to help individuals to motivate, inspire, and advance themselves to the best version of their journey. That is
Mhm.
amazing. Tell me more about this program.
Well, to understand the program, I think you got to understand where it was born.
Oh,
And that's a small story on its own. So, I had just finished university and on my way to, starting up my own law firm. And of course, being an only child, I was really wanting to fulfill dad's and mom's dream of having me in my own building, my own, everything, and having my plaque on my door. And so all of that was like ready to happen. And yeah, so very close to the dream coming true. And then I had a car accident.
oh,
And yeah, and then I was actually in a hospital with spinal injuries, et cetera, et cetera. So I was then told I won't, I'm not going to walk again.
mm,
And I, because of the extensive injury to where the spinal issues were, I won't be able to have children. So a lot was going on, and so I lay there in that high care unit. I think for like 3 months they tried everything. Um, and through that time, the only thing literally that worked for me was my brain. The only thing I
mm,
could do was think. My mind was just, and it was playing havoc with me. To be quite honest, it had its terrible days, terrible moments where I felt like and I would say it outwardly, I felt like I could tell a nurse, can you just do something so I don't breathe, for the next half an hour or something? Because
wow.
I just didn't want to. I just felt like every dream and everything I had worked so hard for is now done. I mean, am I going to lie like this for the rest of my life?
Right.
Because they said I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do it. And everything they were trying to do to make me walk again was not working. And yet the operations itself on my spine were successful, but my reactions to them were not. So, it was like a roller coaster of emotion. And the only thing working for me was the mind. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember very clearly one day, so I had a spiritual guide that used to always guide me. You have the go-to people that
Yes.
you ask for guidance, whatever. So I had one of those. And so at that time, my mom had reached out to him and said, this is what happened to me. And he was obviously praying. He was in Mecca at the time, and he was praying. And he said to my mother, can you go to her and take the phone to her? And she said to him, I'm sorry, but I'm not allowed to take a phone in there because of the machines that are on her. And I don't think I can just go in without letting them know, because you couldn't just visit me because of the
Right.
machinery and stuff was on. And he said, just go. Okay, just go, and I'll be there. I'll call her. And she said, she's okay. And the next thing I know, it was like something past 10 the next day, and my mother just waltzes into my little room at the
Mm.
hospital, and she has the phone in her hand. I'm like, what are you doing here? And she says, don't know. And as she got to me, the phone rang, and I said, you're not supposed to have a phone in here. She says, I know. And then she puts the phone to my ear. And LaKisha, when you're a naughty little child and you get caught red-handed doing something wrong. Yeah, I felt like that when I heard his voice on the phone, because for a couple of years in varsity, I was like going against the grain kind of thing. I was like, rebellious, not rebellious bad way, but trying to do other stuff, live, meeting
I'm
people I'm
guilty of
not
that
supposed to really,
too.
like being normal, so to speak. So I was doing not the so nice things anymore. And this is like oh my gosh, he's on the phone. He's going to, he knows. He knows what I was doing, because I was not really, up to scratch with him. And I'm sure he knows I wasn't doing everything. So I thought, oh, this voice. So I froze as soon as I heard him. And he said to me, so how are you doing? And I thought, oh, right, okay, now I'm going to answer this. And I said, I think I'm okay. I don't know, actually. And then he said to me, and this is where the crux of my mind shift happened.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I was scared of the voice, um, he asked me this question. He said to me, "So what did they say?" So I said to him, "They said I'm not going to be able to walk again, and I'm obviously not going to be able to have kids, and so they said there's nothing more really." And he kept quiet on the phone. And
Mm-hmm.
my heart's pits a pat, because I'm thinking somebody's going to walk in here, security's going to walk in here and tell my mother, you're not supposed to be here with the
Right.
phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking around and nobody's pitching up. And so, and I'm listening to him. He's quiet. He's not saying anything. And he says, I'm going to ask you another question. And I said, okay. Now I'm waiting for the drill. Like, why did you not listen to me?
Right.
And then he asked me this simple question. He said, so what do you have to say about what they said?
Wow.
And I was like, and that initially didn't have power for me. Initially, I thought that's such a silly question to ask me. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
lying in this, I'm crippled, literally. And these
Mm-hmm.
are surgeons, and these are people that have done tests on me. Like, what kind of say do I have on what's happening with me? Really, like, what do I have to say about
Mm-hmm.
these are specialists? And I just said, okay, and he said, I don't answer me, but I'll talk to you again. And don't worry, everything will be okay. And that was it. Mom left. So when I saw her again, I said to her, how did you manage to walk in here? And she said to me, I don't know. When I got off the car, the guard was at the door, and suddenly his phone rang. So he walked away from the door and it opened. And then when I got to your place, it just opened, and the nurse walked away and went to the nurse's station on the other end. So I just grabbed her. So I was like, okay, this is like, obviously the higher ups working here somehow. Um, and then after everybody had left after visiting hours, of course, it's your alone time. That was my worst time every night, because I keep having this thing playing in my head. I'm going to
Right.
be a cripple for life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's gone down the drain. Forget about the rental of your law thing. All the stuff is gone. So it just plays. And yeah, so then I thought about what he had said. He'd asked me that, what do you have to say about what they said? So by the time the second evening came up, it was still playing in my head. And I said, do I actually have a say? Like, do I
Wow.
about what these people are saying? I mean, do I have a say on what's happening with my body? Do I have a say on anything right now? Because I'm lying here. They still come and ask me every day, do you feel that? Do you know that? So my mind is starting to take a turn in the thoughts. So as opposed to the mind that was going on and on and on about how bad the situation was, now the mind is replaying the situation with a different angle. Like to say,
Mm-hmm.
what role did I play to get here? Yes, I know there was an accident, but I'm not talking about that role. I'm talking about I'm here. but I clearly have some purpose to be here. Like, why am I still here? I'm
Yes.
still breathing. I still have mind. And then, somebody who ever listened to me might say this is crazy, but I remember very clearly having a dream 3 nights in a row where I heard somebody say to me, in my dream, you're born into three things. So the first day I forgot about it. The second day I dreamt it. I forgot about it. The third it was there. It's stuck. You're born into three things when you are born into the world. You're born into a specific family unit for a reason. You're born into your specific faith for a reason.
Mm.
And you're given the gift of your body and your being for a reason. And
Wow.
some of the choices I had made took me away from two of those. It
Wow.
took me away from the family that I was born into, and it took me
Mhm.
away kind of from my faith that I was born into. So the
Wow.
only thing I had left going for me was my physical being. And
Hmm.
so the creator was kind of like saying, you know what? I really want you to live your life the way I want you to. So I'm going to take away kind of half of the third one now. And I'm going to make you realize until you do that once you make peace with your other issues, then maybe I'll consider giving them back to you because they're my gifts to you.
Wow.
And it played on me, LaKisha. And I right now I'm going to tear up and I don't want to.
No,
But
like I'm tearing up myself. Like, oh my God.
yeah, well, and it plays, it plays. And I thought about it and I said, oh my God, yeah, I did. I remember in that rebellious state, I would rebel against my mom. I would rebel against my dad. I would want to just do my own thing, regardless of them fulfilling whatever they had to do for me, and I would just not care. I was becoming what I actually was not. It was not me, and joining the wrong crowds and doing stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing. And
Hmm.
I eventually lay there on that bed and made peace with, okay, Mehreen, you did wrong. You acted wrong. But I don't blame you for that. It was wrong choices. So it's gone. But you're here now. And if you want those two gifts back, how are you going to make peace with that? And I realized I gotta suck it up and I gotta be able to say sorry where I have to my mom, to my dad, whoever I thought I might have hurt. Make my
Yeah.
peace with that family, the first gift. And spiritually within me, not to say it out loud to anybody, but within me, I gotta have that discussion with my creator and tell him, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I neglected my duty, so to speak, to you, and I was neglecting my spiritual self. And it was not a human being to say that, sorry to about that. That was just for me to do on my own.
Hmm.
So I thought to myself, you know what, the next day when I see my mom, when I see my dad, those are my two main people, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it out loud. And I did. And they were like, but there's nothing for you to say sorry about. And I said, no, I feel like I need to. And I did. It was an emotional moment, but yeah, we got through that. And after they had left, I had plenty of time on my hands, and I just relayed in my own way a discussion with God, and I just went on with Him, and I said, I did that, and I replayed every bad thing I could think about that I was doing, and I almost forgot some of the good things I was doing in the process because I was so focused on making the wrongs go away.
Right.
And so I remember falling off to sleep that night, trying, but feeling like the sense of peace, so to speak. Like, you know what? And the peace was literally, the peace was, if I'm not going to walk again, I'm still at peace now because I
Mm.
made my peace, the balance of the stuff. And next morning, as usual, the physiotherapist walks in at 5 a.m. and he puts this pin thing against my foot like that just to make sure that, he knows now there's never going to be movement. So he
Mm.
does that, and this time I kick him. Yeah. And he
Oh,
was like, what?
wow.
And then I was still asleep. Okay. So he's so used to doing this every morning. And I don't ever know that he's there because he does it and he goes away and there's never a feeling. And he does that and I kick him again. And we did it the third time. I woke up and I said, can you stop doing that? It's actually very irritating. And he said, and he says, you're feeling that? I said, yeah, 3 times now. You can stop.
Oh
He
my
says,
God.
he says, "Oh my God." And suddenly there was this huge hubbub. Like everybody was around me and different tests were suddenly being done. I'm like, what's going on? And then I realized, whoa, I can actually feel things. I can feel my legs. Oh my gosh, like what's going on? I didn't know. And then it was a whole different angle of how to heal afterward. And only when I was out of hospital, and I mean, this was like after what, 5 months and a few days of being in there and trying and trying. Um, I remember trying very hard to get off the bed, and I fell off because I thought, hey, you know what, I can feel my legs, I can stand. No, so it's,
Mm-hmm.
step by step.
Right.
But then, yeah, then I was there in that bed, and I said to myself, "No, I'm gonna do this. I can try." And that's when I realized, oh, how did I get from no hope to now? Like,
Oh
where
my
did this come
God.
from? And again, the mind is the only thing working, and suddenly the mind is in tune with everything else in your body. And I realized, LaKisha, I realized I had motivated and inspired and advanced myself to take that first step after 7 months.
Oh,
And for me, that is where that MIA was born. It was born, and MIA stands is my dad's surname, right? It's still my surname. But I believe that there's significance to that, and I believe that it was on that bed of my being crippled, and where and science is there. Doctors are important. We need them. So nobody must misunderstand that. But
mm-hmm.
you do have some say as to whether some things happen to you or not.
Oh,
And it's about really knowing you. And it's the hard truths that you got to know about you to build you. And I really, so that is where MIA was born. And I truly, that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because I want to make sure people know that in every one of us, there is that MIA inside you. That no matter what it is that you are going through, you are going to be motivated and inspired and advanced by you, as much as we need everybody else. And that for me, when you say cherry on top, my cherry on top for that story is, yes, right now I walk, okay, I drive, and I'm by God's will and God's grace, I'm fine. But my bonus and the cherry on top for me was I now have a 17, 18-year-old daughter.
oh
That's
my
fine,
God.
said. I'm never, and she's, of course, I'm a single mom though for 17 years, but that's fine. That's my beauty. I mean, she's my gift, and that's the beauty part of my life. Um, that is for me like the biggest bonus of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, more creative, the creator saying, you went through it, you got through it, you
Oh my
took your
God.
first, you fell a few times, but you picked up. And now I'm giving you this gift of your daughter. And
Oh my
now
God.
you go on with her. So MIA, yeah, it's not just dad's name and dad's legacy. MIA is a lot of deep depth. And I had to share the story, sorry. And sorry about my emotion. But
Oh
it's
no,
only when
it's
you relay
okay.
this that you know the essence of where that comes from. And
Yes.
and I'm sure everybody that's going to listen to this is going to say, "Wow, I'm sure I do have it in me," because everyone has gone through it. Like you too. I'm sure you got to a point where you thought, "I'm never going to get through this. Oh my gosh, I can't." And then all of a sudden, somehow you do. And when you
Yes.
look back, you think, "Yeah, I actually got through that.
I
I
actually
thought I
got through
wouldn't,
that.
but." And that's because the MIA is inside you. It's just about how to tap on it and how to build it and grow yourself through it. Yeah. So
Oh
that's
my
Mia.
God. That, listen, but God,
Yeah.
like I'm a firm believer that things happen to us. It's like with the sacrificial offering, things happen to us so they won't happen to other people. And we have such an
Yes.
anointing and calling on our lives where we have to go through that so we can speak
Mhm.
about it and touch other people that can't or that don't know
Yeah.
how or that don't know
Yeah.
how they're going to get through it. Oh my God. I literally listen. That did
Yeah.
it for me. Oh my God, the power of God. Oh my God.
It
He had
is.
to
It
put
is.
you
And
on
I
your
really
back.
believe every one of us is chosen for the pain that we even go through. Yeah, and
Yes.
I truly believe that the pain I had to go through was for the purpose of sharing, the
Yes.
purpose of training, the purpose of teaching. And the purpose in that is it's what I do every day. It's what I love, why I love what I do. And how it's never been about the money story. It's just always been, I want to grow someone. I want someone to find that MIA inside them. And that, I always say by God's grace is going to always be that legacy. Somebody's going to one day be able to tell a story and say, hey, you know what? I heard that lady, and I heard what she had gone through, or I heard something from that MIA thing, and I found my own MIA and I got through it. And
Yes.
that is what That's what we do. We want to reach out to people. And sometimes the best of ways to do that is through what you go through. And God in his
Yes.
wisdom knows human nature is like we love stories, right? People like to gossip story, they like this, they like that. So give them a true story. I think that's what God kind of does with all of us. He gives some of us
Yes.
as he's, we his warriors, we his soldiers, and he says, I'm going to give you the toughest battle of all, and you're going to be able to do something with it with your army.
And
That's
you're
what
going
we
to be
do.
able, yes. Oh my God, sister, that touched my spirit. Oh, God, that was just a blessing because you never know what people go through unless they share with you. And that's a purpose, like you said, what we go through. We have to share because we have to relate. Because if we don't go through it, we
Yes.
can't relate. Oh, God. Oh, yep, they did it for me. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my God, I'm over here in tears.
Yeah.
The power of our God. Oh
Power.
God. Even when we're on our back, he's always there.
There.
And
He's
like you said,
there.
the only thing that was working was your mind.
Yeah. You got to
Ah,
tap into remember, every part of you is a gift unto you. Every
yes.
part of you, if one is not functioning, it doesn't mean the balance of you isn't. You got to somehow always resonate that every part of you is linked to the next one.
Yes.
So who's in control of that? He's given that to you, but you are ultimately in control of your entire being.
That is
And that's
it.
your gift. He's given you as a gift. So why do you want to degrade you? Why do you want to
Oh,
let people do you? You got to just
yes.
be in control of you. That's the whole idea.
Be in control of it. You guys heard it. Be in control of you. I love it. Oh my God. So, sister, you do a lot. You are the president of Successful World One Academy, South Africa, vice president of Yes You Can International, UK, South Africa, deputy director of professional of development education, IIU, and a global educator at the ESC Institute Optics Learning Academy. Now, with the woman of all these, you're juggling all these titles. How do you do that? And then, of course, you said you're a single mom as well. So I know being a single mom and juggling all these titles can get pretty overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, it does. It does. And like I say to you though, sometimes it's not so much I can do my diary, I can plan my diary, but sometimes the day plans the diary for me. But if I know there's certain places that I gotta be at, like if I'm on one of these, if I'm on any of these webinars or I gotta do my teaching to people, I kind of make sure I'm there because I believe every one of those is part of that calling, is part of that purpose. If the MIA has to get to someone, there can be an audience of 1,000, but if I reach that one, I got to
Hmm.
be there to make sure I reach the one.
Yes,
That's the most
ma'am.
important part. Um, so it's not about juggling, but it's also for me to prioritize. Right now, I think you would know if anything had to happen, and it was my daughter or my mom, for example, because my
Hmm.
dad had passed years ago. But I would obviously then call LaKisha and say, LaKisha, my mom and my daughter need me. So MIA can be on hold. Somebody will get that power some other time, but right now my energy needs to go somewhere that's more
Absolutely.
important.
Hmm.
But it's all about you knowing yourself and what's your priority. And the bonus for me is I do what I do with the passion that I do it with. And I know sometimes I don't even know. I honestly don't know how. Sometimes I can have four of these on a day, plus have to be consulting with my patients. But again, it's because of my heart, I think. And I say it very humbly. I think because my heart is in what I do, God Almighty kind of makes it easier. There are days when I have complete burnout, I have to say. There are days when I feel like, wait, I can't. Today is not my day. And when I feel like that, I know I can't. That means I got to listen to. And I learned that lesson from that whole episode of being there. I had to learn how to listen
Hmm.
to my body. I had to learn how to listen to my energy because
Yes.
when you do what I do, you actually give off the positive. And if you are not positive, then how are you giving off? You're giving off a lie. And I can't live like that. I can't do
Yes.
that. So I got to be very in tune with who I am every day to be able to give off from me. But if it's something that's recalling me that's necessary and I got to be there because there's no other chance to do it, that becomes my priority. But yeah, I think the juggle is always just be you. And when you
Mhm.
do you, then time does itself with you. I think really.
Yes. I believe that. Absolutely. Now, you are passionate about helping women, children, and youth and humanity holistically. Where does that passion come from?
Again, from MIA, I think, from that whole episode of me lying there like that.
Hmm.
I want people to learn this, and I especially want women to learn it because, after that, I was married, and unfortunately, it was not the best of marriages.
Mhm.
But I truly am at peace knowing that there was a purpose, and purpose was for me to be able to get my daughter, I suppose.
Right.
God, whatever it may be. But and then there were some very painful experiences emotionally with relationships, even with family for that matter.
Yes, that's true.
Um, sadly enough, when you go through certain things in life, you actually find out that the people you think would stand with you are actually the people that were standing against you all the time. That
Yes.
becomes your biggest challenge through the challenge that you're going through. And
Yes.
I went through that. And the funny thing is, when I started to coach women, when I started to have female patients, and I had gone through this and dealt with it by myself, and then I started to deal with women, I was realizing that actually many women go through the same things.
Yeah, we do.
And then when I looked at myself and I realized I was the people pleaser from being a girl child in a school, trying to fit in, always never being okay to stand out, always trying to conform to other people, waiting for the validation from outside all the time. And then I
Hmm.
realized, why is it that women and children are always feeling this need that the world has to always be okay with you? You
Mm.
are part of this world. And that's when I
Yes.
said, I got to make this drive for women. I got to make this drive happen for kids. And ultimately, since doing it, I found that even brothers in the world have come forward and said, can you help? Because they see themselves as wanting to also grow. And that's a bonus, because we
Hmm.
always want to empower women, empower our children, but we have to empower our boy children and our brothers too. So when we do that, we empower them holistically. And I really feel that's the key. That's the absolute key to growing people. And through that is to make sure they themselves stay honest with who they are.
Yes.
Because that for me is the passion. Like I said to you, it's the hard truths about yourself that you're going to learn, but it's those truths that allow you to reset who you need to be. So
It's
the whole I learn and then I unlearn to relearn. That whole thing starts to happen. But yeah, that's what I teach. And then after, I feel like people don't need to be with me or any coach for that matter, for long periods of time. You don't. You got to
hmm
learn the tool to know how to
Yes.
deal with you yourself and then walk away. I must be able to see you in a mall or see you in a store, and you must be able to tell me, oh, I'm fine. I'm not a platonic one. And I'll be able to know, oh, well, you know what, the tools are working. So you don't need a me forever. You must need the
Right.
tools to work for you. Then a me must back off, so to speak. So that's where the passion started. And I said, I need to do this. And so, you know what, it's been now global, and I'm grateful for that.
I love it. I love it. Now, your most recent award, Champion of Global Change Award, how has this award changed your life?
Oh, you know what, when I got that, I thought, wow. I'll tell you why. It's because at that point, so I don't get very emotionally attached to patients or my students, etc. But
Mm.
there was the child who I had almost adopted. So I have my daughter, of course, but there was a boy that I had almost adopted, so to speak. And I'd been going through a lot and helping him through everything and getting him through school and whatever. And we found out, it was last year actually, that he had the kidney disorder.
Oh,
And yeah, and he would not really want to be different from others, so he would just continue to have the drinks that he would want to have. If he wants a juice that he just wants, he will have it, stuff like that. And I just felt like he was okay. um but even me, I remember people, I mean, we go out there, we empower people, but people must remember we're human. And at that point, and suddenly I got a call, and I didn't know his mom, his dad, and whatever. So it's not like, I took him over completely, but I had adopted everything about him. And I had a call from his mom and dad to say he had gotten very sick the one night and was rushed into hospital.
mm,
Got to the hospital to see him, and they said to me that it's deteriorating rapidly, etc., etc. And yeah, and that was in April, and he was very close to my daughter. So that was like the big brother to her, always watching over her. Don't talk to that guy. Don't, that kind of thing. And so I thought he was going to be okay, and I went to him the one evening. I remember I fed him, and his mom was standing right there and be like, no, you feed me. So I fed him. And I said to him, Kill, I'm going to see you tomorrow morning. We're going to meeting with the doctor, and then we're going to work the way forward. You come home and we'll work it out. And at 2 o'clock the next morning, 2 a.m., I got the call to say he's gone into cardiac arrest.
oh my
And
God.
so rushed there again. And yeah, and he went into coma for, I think, 5 days, and then we lost him, unfortunately.
Oh.
But you know, he gained his wings because it was his time.
Mm.
That's the thing. You got to make your peace with that.
Yes.
But that award came at that time,
Wow.
and you know, because I would be at the hospital and I would be there. I do everything I've got to do, but I still make sure I'm at that hospital for some reason. I felt this, and I need to be there. And then I felt like his family was also latching on, and I felt like I don't want to let anybody down.
Hmm.
And I was just there continuously. But if I had one of these things to do, I would still do it. It would always be late night or whatever the case may be because of the time zones. And I hadn't realized that one or two of the lectures I was giving was actually impacting that many children between India and New Zealand,
Mm.
and actually changing quite a few people's lives and whatever. So when this award came to me, I was actually he had passed on the 1st of May, and his funeral was on the 3rd, 4th. Yeah, and I got this not very long afterward. And for me, it felt like the universe and God Almighty again speaking and saying, just keep doing what you do.
Just keep
Because, you
doing.
know, okay, so we're human. And when I was going through that, and I thought, how did I not see the sign? How did I, like, what did I do wrong? Or what could I have done more to save him? You know, you go on with these things because you're human. And yet
Hmm.
I know there was nothing really much more I could have done. He's had the best of doctors. He was in the best of care. It was just time, you know, it
It's
was
his
his
time.
time. Took a lot of time for me to be okay with that. But at that moment is when I was almost at a low because my daughter felt like she had lost the one person that she was very close to. Her brother's gone. And this was like my son. He would call me at school, it would be ma'am. And then at home, it's like mom. You know, so like he just said, I'm just changing a letter when we get home. It's no big deal. You know, that way it used to be him. And I really felt that. I felt like, what did I do? What did I not notice? What did I miss? And then
Hmm.
I had to realize, actually, I didn't. So when I got this, I realized, well, wait, you are still changing. You are still impacting
Hmm.
people. You just keep going, you know? And sometimes you feel, and I'm sure it's happened with you, where you feel like I can't anymore. This is not working. And then suddenly, so you realize, or you meet somebody, or you hear something that makes you realize, whoa, actually, I am doing something good. And then you
Yes.
just keep going. So sometimes you kind of need your own reset. And because you don't do it properly, I think the universe does it for you. And that award helped me to realize you got to keep doing what you're doing because you are changing lives. So by God's grace and God's will, you know, that came at the right time and it helped me, it impacted me.
I love that. I love that. Well, time flies when you're having fun. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
sharing. Oh my God, it
Absolutely.
was emotional, happy, all at the same time. So many mixed emotions. But thank you for all you do impacting around the globe. Like this world would not be the same without you, Ambassador Sister.
I
So I
appreciate
just
that.
thank you for lending your voice to the world, to the voiceless one. So thank you so much. Now I do
I
salute you.
appreciate
Just know that. I really appreciate
I,
you.
absolute respect and love for you, my sister. We do this together. We do it
Yeah,
together. All of us work together for this.
absolutely. Well, thank you all for
Thank you for
tuning
what
in.
you do and for having me, by the way.
You know what? I'm going to have you back because we got some more talking to do because I know you got a lot more to tell
Absolutely.
me.
Anytime. Yeah. We'll do it.
Right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in with Talks with LaKisha. I am your host of Talks with LaKisha, Dr. LaKisha James, where you get real conversations, real information. See you all next week.
Bye.